Okay, so this is Forger. You get an option when you start to use the basic planes, cubes, spheres, a bust or a body, or just open up one of your existing models, like you can see mine here. So let's just start with a sphere. So I'm using a 2018 iPad here. So this has got, they don't advertise it, Apple, very well, but this has got 4 gig of RAM. There's one above this, which has got 6 gig of RAM. That's the 1 terabyte of storage, but that's a very, very expensive machine for what you're getting. So most people, I think, have this one that I've got. This is a 256 hard drive, or SSD, should I say, with the 4 gig of RAM, and I find it performs admirably for what we want to do. So, excuse me. For me, this is April, early April. We're in the middle of lockdown and Corona, so I'm going to do a little monster. I was going to do a little virus model, but I don't think that's politically correct. So I'm going to do a little monster that's it's been stuck in my head. I'm going to use the tools here and show you how I would do it. So starting with a sphere, we'll leave it all at default for a while, and we'll just have a little bit of a go and just see some of the main tools. So first of all, with the sphere, we need something. We need to make sure that mirroring is on. And if you can see the button that I'm clicking at the top right, that says whether it's on or not. And you can see if I just draw on the surface, it shows. I click on the outside with my little stylus. You can use your thumb, with your finger, sorry, which is what I'm doing now. But I try not to. Pinch and zoom will give you zoom in and out, and then just rotate around. If you want to pan, it's the same, 2 fingers on the screen. So let's use, we want to just use the big basic move tool. So it's the third one on the column on the right there. Bear in mind I am left-handed, so really I should have this set on the other side of the screen. But as most people that watch it are right-handed, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to make sure my brush is big, so you can see it going up and down there. And I'm just going to start pulling things around. So what I want to do is make a mouth shape. And bear in mind that the first 10 minutes of this, the model's going to look very, very rough. We're only interested in blocking out a shape. We're not interested in any details whatsoever. So we literally just start with a sphere, pull the back of the head out, up a little bit, make sure it looks good from all angles. Or not, when I say good, I just mean it looks round, not like some kind of weird shape from one angle, like that currently does. And then just mush it around. And then we're going to want some ears. When I say basic, you'll see what I mean. This doesn't get much more basic than this. So pulling out something that's going to become the ears. And what you're seeing now, I wanted to show you this. See how it starts to go blocky like this? What's happening there is you're pulling your geometry far too far, and it's beginning to fracture. So what does that mean? So if you, let's have a look. I'll just get all my screen looking right. Here we go. So down here at the bottom right of your screen, you've got options for the display mode, and you've got the grid on and off, so we could turn that off straight away. I don't particularly want that. I could start with the wireframe, which is what I do want, and we won't worry about these at the moment. You could have different shaded, faceted and constant, which are useful later on, but at the moment we keep it on shaded, which is the default. Okay, so let's just leave it at that and let me show you what I mean. So as I'm moving around, can you see where I've pulled out? Doesn't matter inside the mouth so much because we've still got plenty of geometry there. But where I've pulled those ears out, see how stretched the polygons are getting? So that tends to become a problem. It's the same in ZBrush, same in any program where it's a polygonal modeler like this. And the way that this has been solved by most people is called dynamic tessellation. And that means they triangulate it here. So how's this been resolved? So let's have a look at our menu on the side here. Tool at the top, mesh, next, layers, object, materials, resources and preferences. And we're gonna work through all of those bit by bit. So we'll ignore tool and we'll go to mesh. And one of the amazing things here is that we've got what's called a remesh option. So you can see here, we've got remesh and we've got a 64 in the number there. What that means is it's an arbitrary number, and rather than subdividing, we're going to remesh this model. So what would a subdivide do? Well, I could hit subdivide and it would times every polygon by 4. Well, that's great. That is quite useful, but not yet. We don't want that yet. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to set my resolution really, really low. So something like 16, and just see what happens. Hit remesh. The mesh needs to be at the highest subdivision level before attempting to remesh. So what's happened there? I've tested subdivision, and I've gone up a level. And what really basically has happened is it's not allowing me to now do what I wanted to do with the remesh. So you mustn't have subdivision levels. So delete those, delete it, yes. Look how blocky and low it is. So at the moment we've got subdivision level 2. Delete the lowest. So we literally have a super low poly model now. So that could be one thing to do. Later on, that will be a useful thing to know. But we don't want that either, do we? So what we want is, we want to be able to remesh to give us a nice, well, basically a nice spread of geometry across the whole model. So let's just see what's happened. Delete highest, delete lowest, just double checking they've all gone, and now remesh. There we go, now remesh. So there is only one there. Now, what you can see has happened is, it's remeshed across the whole model, and it's given me more geometry to play with. Now, if I carry on doing what we were doing, I was just pulling around, and then we'll come inside, and let's go inside the ears a little bit there. And one thing we didn't do that I want to do is start thinking about a neck. So I'm going to pull out a neck. And now before we go any further, remesh again. You see what's happening? So as I pull, whenever I pull, there's no harm in doing a remesh. And once we get a bit closer to our destination shape, there's no reason that we can't start going higher on this remesh here. So put something in for our eyes. Again, these are just placeholders at the moment. So the shape isn't massively important at the moment. It would be nice to have one of everything that we want. So, you know, we're going to have holes for the eyes. I think we were going to, I'm making this up as we go, but I think we were going to do a bat creature. So there might be some kind of weird bat nose going on there. And we will have some eyes, separate eye spheres going in there. And I want to have separate gums and separate teeth. So, and I want to have like really randomly placed, mashed up teeth. So that looks fine to me. So I'm going to go a little bit higher on the remesh and hit remesh. You see how it's got more geometry now. And then we're going to start thinking about adding a little bit more detail around these ears. Not detail in terms of very fine detail, but volume around the ears. So I'm going to turn the wireframe off now, but you now know that what's going on underneath. So if I say I'm hitting remesh, that means underneath, depending on the level of number that I put in, it'll be, that's what the remesh will be driven by. So let's have a look at this. So let's start with this ear, perhaps here, and we'll go for, let's try the next tool, which is, or we can use one or two really, so we'll choose either standard or clay. So let's try clay. We'll keep that size down a bit lower and just stroke some volume on there. And can you see what's happening there? Straight away it's building up the mesh, the same as you would get in 3D Coat or ZBrush or Mudbox or any of them. Okay, so what we will do now is we'll make some teeth. So we need to go object, and let's go plus, and we'll make a cube. Might be the easiest thing to do. So take the cube, move down so we can see it on the screen. Nearly got it right now. We're going to bring it out to the front, and then we're going to scale it down a little bit. So let's just bring it in like this and down like this. And then what we want to do is just, we'll leave it that size for a moment because we're going to just knock off the edges of this teeth. So first of all, just using the move tool, which is up at the top here, we're just going to pull it down at the bottom, pull it out at the front, do it as rough as you like at this point, because it's just a generic tooth for the time being. And then we just want to knock off all the edges, so we can use polish would be a good one. Polish or flatten would usually be the one we use for this. And just knock out those edges. And as he's got some nastiness going on with his teeth, and I think we'll put a few scrape marks and score marks in it as well. So we just use crease, small size, just put some bit of nastiness in the tooth, and that would be fine. So let's transform that one again. So go down to transform, and then scale it down, and then rotate it. Bring it around. And then we need to move it into the correct place. And we're just going to do about 5 or 6 of these in kind of random weird shapes, and then we'll edit each one as we do. So let's just take that one. In fact, no, we won't. What we'll do is we'll move them into place, and then we'll edit them. We'll join them all together. So at the moment we're on cube. So just drag to the side. Whoops. Drag to the side without trying to delete it, and duplicate, and then move that around, and then we can rotate that one a little bit. There we go. So I do want to leave a little bit of a gap because I might overlap them later. And then take that one, duplicate that down. Rotate it all the way around, use the bottom part of it. And then take that one, duplicate it. Rotate it. Again, I'm after oddness, don't forget. Duplicate that one. I'll join all these up again in a moment into one layer. Don't want the back, do we? So let's bring him down and rotate him backwards a bit, and then duplicate that one. Scale him down first, bring him up, and then duplicate him and move him down here. Rotate him, move him into place. Might just do one more on this side, and one more on this side. That'll be enough for what I want to do, I think. Okay, what do we do with them? So we want to join them together. So go into the end one. I'm going to hit this button, join, and then you just select the ones you want to join. So all the cubes, wasn't it? And then hit the join button. Do you want to combine them? Yes. And there we go. They're all joined now. So they're just basically all one. fact, I think there was 2 there that I missed, if I remember rightly. So just add those few in. And that's all done. So now with the move tool, not a huge size, we just now make some variations within those teeth. So you can see that they're clearly not the same tooth. Just add some variety to them just so as they're not, don't look like they're repeated, which they clearly are. There we go, that's fine. So we've got plenty to play with there. So let's do a little bit of painting next. So we'll start with the head. I'm just going to throw some basic colours on just to allow us to see what we're working with really. So we'll do a bit on the head, bit on the eyes, and basically work our way down to the teeth. So what do we want to do? So we want to use paint. Like so. We might want to change materials in a minute so we can open this. Whoops. Okay, so painting. So we're on colour. We'll pick a blue. We'll just fill him in completely. Simply because it's a good place to start. Now, up here we have some alphas, and these are black and white images I've taken from Procreate that allow me to paint with some form. As you can see, roughly gives me some sort of skin texture. So these are quite useful. All you do is you go into Procreate or Photoshop if that's your tool of choice, and you just make yourself the shapes that you want. So in my case here, this is for skin. So it would be, you can see there it's dotty, or you can do this crosshatch one, which is a very useful skin one. We've got it for most programs really, Photoshop, ZBrush, anything that uses brushes really, that's crosshatch is always useful. Just give a little bit all over, like so. And then I want to go massively like bright pinky. Let's have a look. So I want the mouth to be, let's start inside the mouth. Change the brush again. Let's go to the dots again. And let's just really get something. Even if we go over this 3 or 4 times, I'm not bothered. We'll just get this in. You can see it's overspilling there. I'm going to overspill on the eyes as well. Definitely inside the nose, and we'll bring the blue back, but at least now we've made a start with it. There we go. You get an idea of where we're going with that. Inside the eyes, inside the ears, sorry. Get them going. Then we'll go lighter. In fact, let's do some nice skin effects down here. Just want under the chin to start coming back as less blue and more skin. And even lighter. There we go, so that's worked under there quite nicely. We'll do a bit of that on top. As you come out of the pink and go into the blue, and we're going to fill that blue in, don't forget. Just highlight that nose a little bit. Into the ears. This is where your alpha brushes are quite useful. You get some lovely skin shapes going. Notice quite a bit of blue still inside the mouth then, so I'll need to solve that. There we go, that's cool. Let's just get rid of that blue. And then a nice light pink. Keeping changing these alphas. Don't worry if you haven't got alphas to start, you can just use the base one as you learn. But very soon you'll decide that you want to start trying these, making your own alphas. They just make the skin look, you can see there as I'm painting the neck, it just makes everything look much more realistic. So you will eventually decide that you want to use those of your own once you get confident with the brushes. See how we're going over almost everything that we've already painted. They were that initial pass really was just almost like an undercoat, just to give us something to pin it all to. I'm just going to go back here and look at resources. See what we've got here is images that you can pull in for your background. So if you know that you want to really, so this grey background, you can just change the colour. Or sometimes it's good just drag in an image. Let's try one that we like. Let's try, which one do I use a lot? Just try that one. No, it's a bit too much. Try that one. Yeah, that kind of helps really. And while we're doing it, we'll go to material, and this is the base material we're using. So I'm just going to add a bit of pink. See, it's too much there, so knock it back a little bit. There you go, so that's brightened us up already. And the specular, you can play with this a lot, but be careful, because the brighter you go on the specular, the more shiny it's going to look, and that's not usually a good thing. There you go, that's fine. So now we've got a background that gives it a bit more of a key to the real world really. We're still early days, but so let's go back to object and we'll have a look at the teeth next for a second. Doesn't matter what airbrush we use, what alpha we use. Just paint them all solid brown for the start. You see just a complete wash of colour. And then start coming down to like a yellower, more yellowy colour, and then make the brush and the size of the brush and the intensity, bring that back down again. Just give yourself some sort of colour spread going down, then even lighter. See how that gradient from brown to creamy white has already made them look like really rotted, horrible old teeth. And then finally go either bright yellow or white, depending on what you want really. But that with just very simple strokes has given us a set of rotted teeth, which is quite nice. And then we'll go to our first eye, this one, and I think we'll have really nice bright yellow eyes. I think we'll go red yellow pupil, I think is what we'll do. So let's go with what colour? Let's go with the dots for this, and then just give it a flood of red, like thanks. So I'm only going to do one eye, because what we'll do is we'll delete this one. We'll hide this one for now, and we'll just duplicate it again to save us doing it. But what might be nice is on this one, if we go to material, make a new material, I will call it, let's just try the blend material, call it eye, and then let's just see what that specular does now. See how we've put that on the eye there, and we're getting a bit of a different kind of eye. So with materials, we'll knock that shininess right down. You can see there, we've got that wicked eye already, which is what I wanted. Take the specular all the way to white, and then what we'll get now is, if I go materials, sorry, if I go to, let's go back to colour, small brush, and go from the red that we had to an orange. Just making sure we're on the right tool, which we are. There we go, that's what I was trying to get to. Really low intensity, so it gives us this dappled effect. And then we'll go lighter. There we go. You can see that the specular highlight's going to be quite nice when we've got that working properly. This is the light look. This is the main light. We're just seeing what it looks like in different lights. Okay, back again, and then let's go all the way. Again, I'm always checking them on the right one. Let's go all the way to white. And then all the way to black. Now, what we do need to do is give ourselves more resolution. So on that sphere, make sure we go to mesh, and then we want to subdivide and subdivide again. And that'll give us, because we're effectively using what's called vertex painting, that's given us lots and lots of polygons. That's given us lots of, well, basically it's given us a lot of resolution to play with, to be able to paint high quality maps, because essentially these are going to be your textures when you finish, or the start of your textures. There we go. So that's giving it a nice goblin kind of eye. I'm going to hold down, I'm going to delete the other eye, hold down the symmetry X, and you just want to say mirror on X, and it mirrors it across there. So we know that's working. So we go objects, we're on the one that we're on, duplicate, which it's done, go back to the mirror on X, hold it down, remember, and mirror on X, and it's back. So you've got a mirrored set of eyes now to work with, so that's quite nice as well. What you could do is you could paint, for now, you could paint a white specular eye on there, or just mess with your material until you get the look that you're after. See how I've brightened it up there a little bit, and you can mess with your shininess. If it's just not working, just basically just mess around with those settings until you get to a point where you can say you're happy with it. It looks too metal overall at the moment, and that's the only thing I'm not liking about it at the moment. So I probably want to play with it a little bit like that, so we've got a bit more of a don't know, I was going to say demon look then, but I don't really want a demon, do I? I want an impish little character. So yeah, we're not far off there now with that one. And you can see how different the character looks already because of the fact that we've added that little bit of life with the colour. So let's go back to using, let's go back to the head. Sphere number 1. I'm going to use that move tool now. Back up to move. And let's just make sure we've got everything in the right sort of place, really. So the ears are looking about right. I think we decided the eyes are right now, so maybe now's time just to tinker with those a little tiny bit to give us a bit more expression before we do what's called breaking the symmetry, which we're going to do next, which is where we stop working symmetrically and we start putting some life into the character, because at the minute there's not a lot of, you know, any time that you're working and you've got a symmetry going, you've got to think to yourself that life's only symmetrical up to a certain level. So it might be that, you know, you need to bring one eyebrow up and the other one down, but let's get as much done with symmetry on as we can, and then that will help us then not to have to repeat stuff over and over again. Because bear in mind, if you want to put any detail in that's the same on both sides, once you've broken your symmetry, that's it, you're done. You have to do it on both sides, which is not a bad thing. Okay, so now let's just, I don't like that background actually, so let's put another background on. Resources, I'll just try this one. Yeah, there we go. It's a little bit different, isn't it? Look, makes it look a bit better. So turn that symmetry off, and then let's just mess around with him with a big brush. Let's move his mouth up at the side, move his eye down. So as his mouth's come up this side, that means his ear would have probably come up. Let's move his neck over to the side a little bit, like he's twisted round. Which means we'll move that nose round a bit. Let's give him one crazy eye, because why wouldn't you? So that means open it up completely. There we go. And then we'll probably drop this ear down a little bit, as if he's got problems. And he's got a bit of dropsy on one ear. One's gone up and one's gone down. It's never a bad thing. And there we go. We're looking something like now. And I think already you can see, oops, didn't too much there. You see that the character can come to life in very, very few steps. And everything from now on is, presuming that you're happy with where you're at now, everything from now on is detailing. And you can spend as much time as you want, and you can spend as much time as you don't want by not doing as much, or you can send it out to another program, or you can just keep fighting the good fight in here until you're happy with the look that you've got. But that's a very, very quick way of making characters that are quite fun, really, and that's all on an iPad, all in 3D, and you can get them out, which we'll do in the final video, or part of the video.